Perfect. In periodic properties, what all things we will see? First of all, structure, how the atomic size is changing, from left to right and down the group. So when it comes to atomic size, you will find out atomic size. Left to right, it decreases, and down the group, it increases. Now there are three types of radiuses which you can always compare. One is covalent radius, the other one is metallic radius, last one is van der Waals radius. Covalent radius generally is always smaller as compared to that of metallic radius and as compared to that of van der Waals radius for a particular atom. So if you are comparing the covalent radius of hydrogen with its metallic radius, with its van der Waals radius will always be bigger. This is what you must know. Okay. Next, if it is about molecule, got it? Suppose if you have a molecule, which means A is different, B is different. Got it? Like this is molecule atom A and atom B, and it has become some AB molecule. Then if the electronegativity difference is there, which means electronegativity of A is not equal to B, then due to electronegativity difference, now the distance here, right? So D of AB will be less than distance of AA, AA plus distance of BB. Got it? This you must understand. Well, this is the D. Yeah.
Sir, what is AA?
When there is only A and A connection like this.
Oh, okay,
this
got
AA.
it.
And when there is only B and B connection, then the distance between both of them, this is BB. This is BB, this is AA. And we can calculate distance between AB as radius of A plus radius of B minus 0.09 into electronegative difference between A and B mod. Right. So using this formula, we can calculate distance between A and B. Okay. So I guess you should remember this. Okay. And electronegativity which we are using here is from Pauling scale. What is Pauling scale? I'll tell you. Okay. Next, when it comes to atomic size, the only thing that you need to be very clear about is that fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, which is group 17. Then group 18, which is neon, argon, krypton, xenon. If you see that till this point atomic size is decreasing, right? So which means before that oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, these are all bigger in size as compared to that of group 17. Now suddenly the group 18 will have drastic increase in size because this group 18 only contains van der Waals radius. These have van der Waals radiuses only. While group 17 will have covalent radius. Their van der Waals radius is not to be compared because that is molecule. So this covalent radius you are comparing with the van der Waals radius. So that's why you will see their sizes are bigger. So in generally, if it is been said, till halogens, atomic size will decrease. From halogens to inert gases, suddenly it will increase. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
This is an exception. Now this is an exception from left to right. If you go down the group, okay, if you go down the group, if you see group 13 is the exception. In group 13, boron is less than gallium, is less than aluminium, is less than indium, is less than thallium. Okay. So if you see size wise, first boron, then aluminium, gallium, indium, thallium. This is how it will vary. Okay, so just remember this point. This is happening because gallium has poor shielding of d electrons, 3d electrons, because they were just added. So atomic size shrinks. Guess that is clear. Next,
Yes.
3D, 4D, and 5D. If you see this series, I will write one of the series and rest will follow that. If you take 3D series, which is scandium, from scandium to titanium, the size will decrease. From scandium to vanadium, size will decrease. To chromium, size will decrease. Okay. Manganese almost the same. Okay. So from here, iron will almost be the same. Next, cobalt slightly decreases, nickel slightly decreases. Okay. Copper will slightly increase and zinc will increase drastically. Got it? So this is from scandium to zinc. So what you have observed here, almost from chromium towards nickel, right? Sorry, nickel here, almost up to nickel. On an average, the clays is very close to each other. So all of them are almost similar size. And the same fundamental follows in 4D also and 5D also. Is this clear better? Right?
Yes, sir.
Next. Another exception is lanthanoid contraction, which means down the group, we will have radius in generally down the group. 3D element will have less size compared to 4D, but 4D and 5D will have almost similar size. Okay. For example, scandium is less than yttrium, okay, which is less than lanthanum. Till here it will follow, but after this it does not follow. This is the only one which follows a regular trend. Titanium is less than zirconium, which is almost equal to hafnium. Okay. Vanadium is less than niobium, which is almost equal to, okay, talcatium. Chromium is less than molybdenum, which is almost same as tungsten. Guess this is clear now. This is
Yes,
the
sir.
variation down the group. This is completely about atomic size. These are the exceptions you must remember. The next important point is ionization energy. Ionization energy means an element if it is completely becoming an ion by removing an electron, then this is read as ionization energy. Okay. How does this vary across the period and down the group? See, ionization energy will always be inversely proportional to the size. It is directly proportional to the Z effective. Okay. So more the Z effective, more will be the size. And it will be inversely proportional to the screening factor sigma, which means screening effect. More the screening effect, less will be the ionization required. Next point, for same n value, ionization energy will vary this way. S will have more than P than D. Example, 3s will have more ionization energy compared to that of 3p orbital compared to that of 3d orbital. Okay. Best examples, if you check out beryllium and boron, this is 2s2, this is 2s2 and 2p1. So this is in P, you have to remove electron from P here, you have to remove electron from S here. So this requires more energy. Magnesium and aluminium, 3s2, 3s2, 3p1. This requires more energy. Okay. Next, another exception. This is one important thing we need to know. Another exception is that half-fill stability. Due to half-fill stability also, ionization trend will slightly change. So if you check out nitrogen and oxygen, it is 2s2, 2p3, 2s2, 2p4. After removing electron, it will achieve half-filled. It is already half-filled, so this will require more energy. Got it. Same thing will follow with phosphorus and sulfur. Same thing will follow with arsenic and selenium. Okay. So overall periodic trend, If you see overall periodic trend, if at all you check it out, lithium will have less than beryllium, which is greater than boron, which is less than carbon, nitrogen, got it, which is greater than oxygen, which is less than fluorine, which is very, very less than neon. Okay, this is how the variation would be. Got it. Down the group, right? So if you check out down the group, group 13, same problem. Boron would be greater than gallium, then aluminium, then thallium, sorry, then indium, then thallium. Because this was an exception, you can remember the size, we just discussed it here. Got it? And that will follow the size trend. Next, if you check out group 14, it will be carbon greater than silicon, greater than germanium, greater than tin, but less than lead. Okay, so lead would have lanthanide contraction, so that's why it will require more amount of energy as compared to that of tin. Got it? So this is one important case you must remember. Now, down the group, we have just seen that hafnium, zirconium, same size. Then we have lanthanum, no, talcatium and niobium have same size. Molybdenum and tungsten has same size. But when it comes to ionization, the high, this is from 5D series, this is from 4D series. 5D, 4D, 5D and 4D series. Then 5D series will have more dominant because of lanthanide contraction, because they have more Z effective. So this is on the basis of Z effective. Now, ionization does help us a lot to understand certain applications. For example, first application is if reactivity is more, which means ionization is low. So if the ionization of an ion or a molecule is less, which means it must be more reactive. Okay. Sorry. Second, first ionization will always be, less than the second ionization, irrespective of whatever atom you are talking about. And this is generic. Correct. Next, if you consider the electronegative differences, for example, if you take Na and Mg, okay, it is 3s1 and 3s2. The first electron removal would be more for this one. So this is IE1. But after it has become Na plus and Mg plus, correct? Now, removing the second electron would be much difficult for this one because now it has entered 2p6. This is still 3s1. Correct? So you got to be clear when you're checking out second ionization, because second ionization always depends upon the next configuration. Got it? Another example, if you check out oxygen and nitrogen, if you take out the first ionization, this was better. If you check out the second ionization, then oxygen is more than nitrogen. I think ionization is clear, beta, right? Okay. Next, ionic radii. When it comes to ionic radii, there are few terms you need to check. If the positive charge keeps increasing, the size will always keeps decreasing. But if the negative charge will keep increasing, the size will always keep increasing. Okay. If you have isoelectronic ions like N3 minus, O2 minus, F minus, Na plus, Mg2 plus, and Al plus 3 like this, then for isoelectronic ions, you should be always clear that more number of electrons you have compared to protons, the size will always be more. Okay. So in short, if you have Z, which is the number of protons, and E, which is the number of electrons, then Z by E increases, means size will decrease. Got it. Ionic radii is clear.
Yes, sir.
Next, electron gain enthalpy. Electron gain enthalpy, or we other term which is used is affinity, electron affinity. First and foremost, you got to remember electron affinity is always minus of delta H of electron gain enthalpy. Mathematically, this is always mathematically. What does this mean? Suppose if any element, if an electron is being added and it will become a negative species, then energy is usually released. Usually it is released. Okay, usually. Got it? But it could be greater than 0 also. Okay. Now, how do we judge this? What are the factors that affect? Factors that affect. If you check it out, first, size. Okay. Delta Heg magnitude is always inversely proportional to size. Second, delta Heg magnitude is directly proportional to Z effective. Third, delta Heg is inversely proportional to screening factor, just like ionization. So everything that is followed is similar to that of ionization. Okay. Delta H electron gain enthalpy, which are positive always. For these elements, it is always positive. That is beryllium, magnesium, nitrogen, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, and radon. So if you observe carefully, these are all noble gases. Exceptions are nitrogen, beryllium, and magnesium. They have positive electron gain enthalpy, means energy is required to add an electron to that. Okay. Third point is, if you consider delta Hg gain enthalpy, it may be positive or negative. This is first electron gain enthalpy. If delta H electron gain enthalpy is second, this will always be positive, always, irrespective of whatever element it is. For instance, oxygen plus 1 electron, it will give O minus. Delta H electron gain enthalpy is negative. Oxygen minus plus 1 more electron, giving O2 minus. Delta H electron gain enthalpy is always positive. This is 1 and this is 2. And the overall sum, okay, that electron gain enthalpy overall will always be greater than 0. And this is valid for all atoms. All right, so that's how you can generalize. The second, electron gain enthalpy is always positive because of electron repulsions. This is also negatively charged. This is also negatively charged. So there would be an inter-electronic repulsions that will make it to always repel each other. Yes, this is clear now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If you check out across the period, lithium is less than carbon, is less than boron. Sorry, lithium is less than boron. Okay, is less than carbon, is less than oxygen, is less than fluorine. Beryllium and nitrogen won't be there, na? Because they have positive electron gain enthalpy. All of these are negative gain enthalpies. Remember this. Okay. Down the group is an interesting case here. This is very, very important case. Electron gain enthalpy down the group. Due to size, oxygen is less than sulfur. Expected is oxygen is greater than sulfur, but always oxygen is less than sulfur. Similarly, nitrogen is less than phosphorus. Similarly, fluorine is less than chlorine. Okay. And same follows for carbon, less than silicon, boron, less than aluminium. Okay, this is how it is. For halogens, you have to remember the order, complete order, which is chlorine greater than fluorine, greater than bromine, greater than iodine. Okay. When it comes to for chalcogens, which is oxygen family, in oxygen family, sulfur greater than selenium, greater than tellurium, greater than polonium, greater than oxygen. So very important here that oxygen is the least. Oxygen has the least electron gain enthalpy out of all their group elements. Got it? For alkali metals, lithium is greater than sodium, is greater than potassium, is greater than rubidium, greater than cesium, which is a regular order. So this is how they are dependent on each other. I guess you understood this better, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is about electron gain enthalpy. The next important factor is electronegativity. Now, when it comes to electronegativity, it is about attracting shared pair of electrons. So the one which has more ability to attract the shared pair of electrons, that will have more electronegativity. Electronegativity factors, if you check out, it is directly proportional to Z effective. More Z effective, more electronegativity. Inversely proportional to size. If you observe, these factors are exactly similar for ionization, electron affinity, and electronegativity, and inversely proportional to screening factor. Here there are few important cases like oxidation state of elements. If it is more or less, what would happen? If positive charge is increasing, then electronegativity will increase. Correct? If negative charge, like for example Mn plus 2, Mn plus 4, Mn plus 7, in all of these cases electronegativity will keep increasing. Okay, but if it is negative charge, O2 minus, O minus, electronegativity will decrease. Okay, if negative charge increases, electronegativity decreases. Okay, same way, if you have carbon single bond with sp3 hybridization, carbon double bond with sp2 hybridization, carbon triple bond with sp hybridization. If you compare these three carbons which I am coloring, got it? So we can say carbon with sp3 will have less electronegativity than sp2, than carbon with sp. So from here we can make one very important rule. If the percentage S character increases, electronegativity of that particular element will always increase. I hope this point is clear. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. Pauling scale is the most useful scale which measures the electronegativity. Okay. So if there is a polarity between A and B, if at all there is a polarity between A and B, then amount of extra energy released, which we call it as delta, will be equal to energy bond enthalpy between AB. This is expected, okay, minus bond enthalpy between AB theoretical. Correct? Which means, understand this. If you have AB, suppose there is no polarity between them, and the amount of energy required to break this is X joules. Okay. If at all there is any polarity developed, suppose this got some delta positive, this got some delta positive, then the energy required here will always be greater than X joules, because when there is polarity between two atoms, they have positive and negative charge. So extra attraction is developed because they have ionic character, because they have that polarity. So you require more energy than you actually expect, right? So this is theoretical, this is experimental. So experimentally, whatever you will find will have more energy as compared to what theoretically we think of. Is this point clear? Correct.
Yes, sir.
Right. This experimental value usually is given to you, which is E of AB minus theoretical. How do we calculate? Theoretical we calculate as E of AA. If there is only AA bond, then how much energy is required? If there is only BB bond, then how much energy is required? Product of that and root of that will give the average. So this average, which is theoretical, that if you subtract with E of AB, you will get this delta, and this delta is that extra energy. Okay, so this electronegativity difference between these two atoms will be 0.208 under root of delta. Got it? This is called Stephenson's formula, and this is the most important formula by which you calculate electronegativity difference of elements. I hope you guys you can remember this beta. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Next.
Direct questions are being asked
Yes,
to
direct questions
calculate
have been asked.
electronegativity.
Yes, on this formula it has been asked.
Okay, sir.
Electronegativity of all the elements according to Pauling scale is measured with respect to hydrogen, and hydrogen was given as 2.1. From there it has been measured for others, and it has been found boron slightly less, carbon around 2.5, nitrogen 3, oxygen 3.5, fluorine 4, chlorine 3, bromine 2.8, iodine 2.5, sulfur 2.8. Okay, 2.7, sorry, right, 2.7. Okay, so if you see the overall order, okay, if you consider this, yeah, phosphorus, right, 2.2. So if you consider all of this order carefully, fluorine is the most electronegative, oxygen, then nitrogen and chlorine are almost the same, then bromine, sulfur, iodine, got it? Then we have carbon, phosphorus, boron, sorry, hydrogen, then boron, and then we can say all of them are metals. Most of them are metals. So hydrogen will become more like a barrier between non-metals, metals and metalloids. Is this clear? So hydrogen will have more electronegativity than metals and metalloids, and less electronegativity with non-metals. Okay. The most electronegative element is fluorine. Okay. Mulliken scale. That is about Pauling scale. If you check out Mulliken scale, electronegativity is theoretically defined as ionization energy plus electron affinity by 2. First ionization, first electron affinity. Okay. So usually this is measured in electron volts per atom. Okay. So if electronegativity of Mulliken scale is compared with electronegativity of Pauling scale, it is found that Mulliken is 2.8 times of that of Pauling scale. Okay, or Pauling is Mulliken by 2.8. Got it? This is when you are taking in electron volts. Suppose if you are changing the units, right? So then what would happen here? So electronegativity in Pauling scale will be equal to IE plus electron affinity divided by 540 kilojoules per mole. That is when you are converting this electron volt per atom into kilojoules per mole. Electronegativity has the most applications in periodic properties. The first application being, it tells us metallic and non-metallic character. Metallic and non-metallic character. We just checked this out. Anything which is less than hydrogen, we have more metallic character. If this is greater than hydrogen, it has more non-metallic character. Okay. Second, if you check out Down the group, most of them are becoming metallic because their electronegativity is less than hydrogen. Now, next, electronegativity difference between two atoms that decides its ionic or covalent character. If between two atoms, electronegativity difference is zero, it is purely covalent. It is purely covalent. If between AB, electronegativity difference, got it? According to Pauling scale, I'm talking according to Pauling scale, is less than or equal to 1.7. Got it? Which means it has 50% ionic, sorry, is equal to, I'm saying, equal to 1.7. It has 50% ionic and 50% covalent. Okay, we still call this kind of bonds as polar covalent bonds. Polar covalent bonds. Correct? So which means between AB, if the electronegativity is less than or equal to 1.7, we call it as polar covalent. Okay. If AB electronegativity is greater than 1.7, we call it as ionic compound or ionic molecule. Okay. So which means it has more ionic character. I guess this point is clear, right? Okay. Next, we just need to check about what are the valencies, how the molecules are formed, their oxidation states. Correct. These are all the cases you need to learn. Okay. The last thing from this chapter is about inert pair effect. Now, when it comes to sixth period onwards, especially the p block elements, they start showing the lower oxidation state being more stable than higher oxidation state. I'll show the stability from 13th group. If you see the 13th group here, which is thallium and indium. Got it? Sorry, thallium with +1 oxidation state and thallium with +3 oxidation state. Then this is more stable. In 14th group, if we check out lead versus lead with +2 and +4, then +2 is more stable. Correct? 15th group, bismuth and bismuth with +3 and +5. +3 is always more stable. And 16th group, polonium. If you check out polonium, +4 and +6, +4 is more stable. Okay, this comes with the fact that NS2 is inert. Otherwise, in all other cases, NS2 electrons are also being involved in the bonding. In these elements, NS2 are not easily involved. Even if they involve, they are less stable. Okay, so if we compare the stability, based on inert pair effect, you can check out CCl4 is more stable than SiCl4, is more stable than GeCl4, is more stable than SnCl4, is more stable than PbCl4. But if you see CCl2 is less stable than SiCl2, is less stable than GaCl2, is less stable than SnCl2, is less stable than PbCl2. PbCl2 is very, very stable. In fact, so stable that it will exist like a precipitate. Got it?
Yes,
I guess
sir.
the inert pair effect is clear, beta.
Yes, sir.
Last thing is about type of oxides. Type of oxides in this periodic table, right? So when it comes to type of oxides, you will see we can have the nature of oxides could be either metallic, non-metallic, which means they would be basic, or they could be acidic. When it comes to metals, especially for metals, oxides are usually basic. Okay, and this does not include D block. Okay, so which means down the group, if you check out down the group, got it, usually metallic character always increases. Metallic nature increases. Metallic nature means ability to give electrons. Okay, so the outermost electrons, if they are easily participating, we call it as metallic. Metallic nature increases, which means basic nature increases. Got it? For example, Li2O is less basic than Na2O is less basic than K2O is less basic than Rb2O is less basic than CS2O. CS2O is very highly basic oxide. Okay. Now left to right, metallic nature decreases. Metallic nature usually decreases. So basic nature decreases. For example, if we consider K2O, CaO, and CuO, cuprous oxide, then K2O is much basic than CaO, then CuO. There are some compounds, some oxides which are amphoteric. Some oxides which are amphoteric. Okay. I would strictly suggest that you write it on a sticky note and paste it somewhere close to your system, close to the workstation where you are working. Because these elements which are amphoteric has been asked many number of times in exams. BeO, Al2O3, Ga2O3, ZnO, PbO, PbO2, SnO, SnO2, As2O3, arsenic trisulfate, Sb2O3, arsenic trioxide, Cr2O3, ZnO. Oh, ZnO I have already written. Okay. These along with one more V2O5, vanadium pentoxide. Got it? These all will show amphoteric behavior. Got it? These have been most asked in JEE exams, like which of the following are amphoteric in nature. So you should be able to find it out. Next, in non-metals. In non-metals, anyways, group 1 or group 2 are only metallic. Here it is all about P block. In P block, left to right, non-metallic character increases, which means acidic character increases. Correct. Which means SiO2, PbO10, SO3, and Cl2O7. If we check out, Cl2O7 is very highly acidic oxide. Same way, N2O5, down the group, if you check it out, down the group, non-metallic character is decreasing. So As2O5, Sb2O5. This is the case how it happens. Now, if you have same element, then check oxidation state. Oxidation state. So, if oxidation state increases, acidic character increases. Got it? Which is N2O3, N2O4, and N2O5. This is how the oxidation state increases. Here, oxidation state is +5, +4, and +3. Got it? Same thing goes for chlorines, Cl2O, ClO, ClO2, right? Cl2O3, Cl2O5, and Cl2O7. Acidic character increases this way. Okay, these two have been asked in JEE many number of times in JEE mains. So please make sure you should not make any mistake in identifying the acidic nature. Last thing here is about neutral oxides. Neutral oxides. There are only 3 neutral oxides: CO, NO, and 2O. These are neutral oxides. Well, H2O, we do not call it as oxide, but sometimes if it was given in the options, like find the neutral oxides, you can always take H2O also. So these are the 4 only neutral oxides in the entire periodic table. So you better memorize that. So I guess you understood which are the parts you need to remember very carefully. Last thing, diagonal relationship. Diagonal relationship. If you check out few elements here, lithium 2 magnesium and beryllium towards aluminium, they are diagonally aligned. Boron to silicon, they are diagonally aligned, have similar properties, have similar physical and chemical properties. Okay, is this clear, beta? Okay,
Yes, sir.
done. Right. Last important bullets, important bullet points. If you check out from periodic table, hydrogen is smallest atom. Okay, students get confused with fluorine. Please remember this. Hydrogen is smallest, CS is largest. Fluorine is smallest in that particular period, but not with respect to hydrogen. H plus is smallest cation. H plus is smallest cation. CS plus is largest cation. Largest cation in a sense, only with single positive ions if you consider H plus is smallest. F minus is smallest anion. This is smallest anion. Okay, while I minus is largest anion. Again, I'm comparing only single charge. This is a very important term asked in JEE. A lot of students committed mistake. Helium has highest first ionization enthalpy, while CS has lowest first ionization enthalpy. Chlorine is most negative electron gain enthalpy. It has most negative electron gain enthalpy. Okay, next point. Neon has most positive electron gain enthalpy. This is a very easy one. Fluorine is the most electronegative atom, while CS is least electronegative atom. Got it? Next, ruthenium, osmium show maximum oxidation state, which is +8. No other elements will show +8 except these two. Osmium is heaviest metal. Osmium is heaviest metal. Got it? Around 27 gram per ml. Got it? Right? And lithium is lightest metal. Lithium is lightest metal. Okay. Hg has highest density in liquid state. Mercury has highest density in liquid state. Got it? Helium has least melting point.